TV. I am your host, Bill from the BX. Today I am here with the best in the business, the best in the game, Miss Carrie Wise. How you doing, ma'am?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Thank you
Great.
for having me.
Great, I'm glad you could be here. You are the owner and sole proprietor of QualityTax.biz, correct?
Yes.
And you're also a United States Army veteran?
Yes. I'm a Vietnam veteran on top of that.
Tell us about it. Tell us what made you join the military.
Well, I am the second child of 10 children. Okay.
Wow.
And I'm from Hazelhurst, Mississippi, which is a very small town. It's 500 miles from San Antonio, 250 miles from Louisiana. So my parents couldn't afford to send us to college because there were so many of us. So when I became 17, I took my test. I passed my test, but I couldn't join the military at that point because I was too young. But my father signed for me. My mom wouldn't sign for me because, mom wants you to stay home and just be with her. I'm like, no, I really need, and I wanted to go into medicine at that point. Okay. So the only way that I thought I could get a good education is by going into the military.
Okay. And you took advantage of your GI Bill? And
I took advantage of everything that was, you have to understand, now you realize how many years ago this was, right?
Yeah, that was my next question. I'll talk about the GI Bill, but before we even get there, the military wasn't all the way what it is today. You joined the Women's Army Corps?
Yeah, it was called, we were WACs.
The WACs.
W-A-C. Okay. It was the Women's Army Corps, which was called, we were the WACs, WAVES, and WAFs. The WACs was the Army, the WAFs were the Air Force, and the WAVES was the Navy.
The Navy. So
yes.
In the Women's Army Corps, you only had a small amount of jobs available, MOS available.
No, that's not true in the Army now. The Navy and the Air Force are a little bit more limited to females, but with the Army, a woman can do everything but go into the combat zone. We were in the combat zone, but you couldn't go and we had to learn about our weapons, but we were not put on the front line.
Yeah, there wasn't no combat MOSs yet.
Because my unit is a MASH unit. You know what a MASH unit is?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, tell us
what a MASH unit is. You ever heard of the 2290th?
I've heard of them, but my listeners may have not.
Yeah, the 2290th is my unit. The 2290th is an Army Reserve unit. But see, that's not the same unit that I was in when I was on active duty, because I stayed on active duty for 12 years.
Okay.
Where
were you stationed in a 12-year time?
Okay. The difference between 1966, it was only the women, it was called the WAC. So that meant that we were totally separate from the regular soldiers in the regular Army. So my first sergeant were women, my commander was a woman. So we were totally a separate unit as far as being the Women Army Corps. We went to Fort McClellan, Alabama for training. Okay. You were not allowed to have any interactions. My first sergeant used to tell us, I don't want you girls, you soldiers out there interfering with those trees. Being 18 years old, I'm like, now why in the world would I want to be around a tree? She meant those green fatigues.
Oh my God. And she called them trees.
Because we were in Fort McClellan, we did training. When we left Fort McClellan with Fort Sam Houston, which is the Army, the medical unit for the military. Okay. According to what your scores were, determined if you were eligible to go into medicine. So I went to they call it it was a 91B, which is a medical corpsman.
Nice. 91 Bravo. So I think it's still the same, that thing. I think it's still the same thing.
A lot of them 91Bs.
A lot of them have changed, and maybe it's changed recently. I just don't know. But I pretty much think it's the same.
Yeah, well, that's where I went the first. It's to Fort Sam Houston. They send you initially to Fort Sam Houston for your training. In 1966, you could count the women in your platoon, okay? So I'm averaging maybe in 1966, the women and the men were separate, but we were all one big unit.
Okay.
All of the men went to Vietnam in 1966 after they graduated from AIT. All of the female soldiers went to Walter Reed Army Medical Center.
Wow.
So I was at Walter Reed Army Medical Center. I'm 18 years old. I was on the ward dealing with the veterans because they were it was really a bad time in 66, 67, and 68. So we had a lot of wounded soldiers. So I had to deal with the wounded soldiers on the ward. We were in the old hospital at Walter Reed.
Oh, wow.
You're 18 and
The one on I forget what it's at.
Georgia Avenue.
Georgia Avenue. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah. The hospital was like a big ramp. You didn't have stairs. The new hospital is really a bad place because it's not for handicapped soldiers. The older hospital was like a big ramp. You could actually go down in the basement of that hospital and all the everybody was in a wheelchair. So that's the reason of the ramps, because it was a wheelchair place for disabled veterans because everybody had gotten blown from the waist down.
Wow.
So you had to be in a wheelchair. And you could go from the basement of that hospital and all the way up to the 5th floor and not even have to touch anything because you were going up the ramp.
Oh my goodness. Well, now they had elevators.
No. There were elevators, but the elevator was only, really, I don't even remember ever getting on an elevator.
Okay.
No, you either had the gurney going down the ramp. Oh no, we didn't have, I don't think, the only elevator maybe was on that side where the general was over by the fountain. Are you familiar with the old hospital?
I want to say I was there one time.
Is the front of it.
But since more recent, I'm more familiar with Bethesda. I don't know about
Bethesda Army. Okay, the Bethesda Hospital.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, where they moved it to. They ended up moving.
You didn't go to the one on Georgia Avenue.
I seen the one on Georgia Avenue, but they took everything down by time. They took everything down. I remember being
1967.
Really? Oh,
I used to watch. Yet. Listen now, my boyfriend and I used to sit up on the hill because the helicopter port. My boyfriend and I used to sit over on the steps of the old hospital, and I used to watch them tear down the hospital 3 times before they got it right because the contracts would change, misappropriate taxpayers' money, and somebody else would want to do something different. The hospital was supposed to look like the original Red Hospital.
Wow.
But by the time the contract is finished, it looked just like the Pentagon with no windows. You only have windows on the outer side and not in the inside. It was just a depressing building.
First time I seen the Georgia Avenue, Walter Reed, I just came back from Korea. And in Korea in 2001, in January, my first sergeant said, "Hey, Montgomery, we have an assignment for you." I was like, "Top." I was like, "First sergeant, what you got?" He said, "Well, you're going to be a tax preparer." So he sent me to get trained for 3 days, maybe, with a Jackson Hewitt program and an NCOIC, who was not really familiar with the program at all either. And from January 20th to maybe April 15th to the tax deadline, I was preparing taxes in Yongsung, Korea. Tell us about how you got started helping people with their taxes. Yeah, because I was ill qualified.
Now, okay. My first husband. It started with my first husband. I was in the reserves. Okay. When I had my son, because I was active duty and I had my son and my husband was a civilian, the military does not like civilians and they don't like you getting married. And I was told that if we had wanted you to have a son, we'd have issued it to you. So they didn't care whether I had one or not. 6 weeks after my son was born and had me on orders, I was on orders 24/7 because of my MOS. I had accumulated 4 different MOSs by that time.
Wow.
So I had to resign. They gave us the option of resigning in 1975. I resigned because my son was born in 1974. Okay, now my husband was going to H&R Block as usual to get our taxes done. This went on, a couple of years went by, and then finally, my first husband and I separated, and I was not in contact with him. He always knew where I was, but I never knew who he was. He finally got in touch with me and told me that the Internal Revenue Service was garnishing his paycheck. No kidding. I wonder why is that? So I finally, because he was the primary on the return, naturally he was getting garnished. So I got in touch with the Internal Revenue Service. He told me what the problem was. The problem was that H&R Block had not incorporated my income for my reserve pay. That he was told, well, we don't need that. So that was the problem. So I talked to the Internal Revenue Service. They told me what to do. I went and did this myself. They said, well, listen, it is in your best interest, Miss Eskridge, for you to find how to do your own taxes. And they gave me the class. It's an initial class you can go through and learn, because we had books. The books, we used to use the books now because we didn't start electronic filing in 2005. So you used to, remember, you used to get that 1040 book?
That's the book I was trained on back in
Yes,
2000.
remember now,
2000, yeah, that's 2000.
Every year at the end of every year at the end of December, everybody would get their book.
Mm-hmm.
That was your Bible. That was your book. Your forms were in that booklet. You would do everything by the book, and you had to do everything was on paper then.
And the lawmakers wasn't making updates every couple
no
of weeks.
Update. Well, we didn't have any. Who had updates back in there? It was just purely regular. It was no all of this fancy everything that's going on now. So I did the amended return because of just reading. I did the amended return, which means that you have to, instead of you doing a regular 1040, it's a 1040X that amends the original return that was incorrect. After we did that, I found we were entitled to money back because I had money coming out for the money that I had earned from the reserves. So the Internal Revenue Service frowned on H&R Block even in the year 2001.
Wow.
This was in probably 78 or 79. They frowned on H&R Block because H&R Block didn't really give you counseling. They didn't talk to you. You just gave them these papers, and all of a sudden they go, well, you can come back and pick them up in a week or whatever. So you really didn't know what was wrong or what was right because they never went over anything with you.
No,
okay.
No, it's definitely yeah, they didn't educate me very well. They gave me, and they basically trained us to do the 1040 EZs, the 1040 alphas. Well, done mostly by the NCOIC, but
you know what? It's amazing that you said that, because do you know how many clients now that they don't know what a Schedule A is? They don't know what a Schedule B is, and they don't. Okay, did you know that there are schedules A through Z in the Internal Revenue Services code?
I don't know. We only know, all I know is I'm familiar with the 1040 Alpha and the 1040 Bravo. But anybody in the military, please do not go to these people on the base who are assigned to do taxes after getting a 3-day training and completely unfamiliar, don't have any information, no real experience. Don't do it. Please contact Ms. Wise at QualityTax.biz. I'll put the email and the link right here below on the video.
You can give them my number too, William. It's 240-654-5381.
I'll definitely put that right on the video and make sure that they reach out to you, and we can get you to help everyone, because you've helped me. You've helped me a ton over the years. I've had so many issues when it comes to my taxes, making sure I claim everything in my home, claim my uniforms, claim my miles to and from work, claim all kinds. My daughter, these stimuluses that I didn't think I qualified for.
Oh my goodness.
You educated me so much about what I did qualify for and I didn't know, and now we got another stimulus allegedly about to come out. Yeah, Ms. Wise, I'm just so thankful for you, and I've benefited from you so much. I'm now willing to share you and your knowledge and experience with the rest of the world. So please tell us. Yeah, please.
Okay, listen. When did you remember now that when President Bush left the office is the only time that they started giving the military their expense, reservists their expense to go back and forth to their unit. Did you know that?
I did not at the time.
Of course you did.
You educated me.
Let me tell you, I'm one person who pays attention to detail when it comes to my military clients. I pay attention to detail when it comes to anything. Now, before President Bush left office in 2008, he made a rule that because of the Desert Storm in Iraq, and a lot of my unit was mobilized. Oh, please. My unit was mobilized for Iraq. My unit was mobilized for Desert Storm. Because let me tell you what happened. I went to civilian, when I got out of the military, in 1974. And I went into civil service in 1970 because I went back to college, and I put in my papers to go to Washington Medical Center to work. They called me in 1977 to come work at the hospital. So I was a civil servant then, and I was also with my unit because I had too much time to lose, so I joined the Army Reserve, okay? Because I had 12 years of active service, I didn't want to throw that 12 years away. So I joined the 2290, which is a medical unit that our mission was Walter Reed Army Medical Center. Now, in 2008, President Bush made a rule that since the reservists and National Guards were called up and taken away from their home and their work, that we were allowed to give them an adjustment on their income for their military travel. Okay, now, he also stated, I'm listening, he was going to alert the commanders and that they were going to let all of the commanders are going to put this out to our troops. Okay, here we come 2009, we're coming into the tax year. And I'm like, this is not on the 1040. It should be at the bottom where it says adjustments. So I had to challenge the Internal Revenue Service, and I called the practitioners branch, and I'm like, what's going on with the reserve travel? Because I was giving my military client to 2106 because I knew that was the rule. Absolutely. So here comes, oh no, that doesn't exist. I said, no. I said, when President Bush left office, they didn't put it on the 1040. See, this is what happened. He gave the order in December before this man left office, okay? The President Obama was inaugurated in January. So because this was in December of 2008, when the Internal Revenue Service redid the book, they redo that computer. When the computer closes on the 15th of October, this is when the programs goes in and they do all these different things with the program. The 1040 did not have the 2106 as an adjustment for the clients for the military, right? So I had to challenge. I told the Internal Revenue Service, they're like, well, you can't do a 2106 without your Schedule A. I says, no, you're misinformed. I said, you better go back and look at your publication because President Bush made this rule. So they had to back up because I was the only person that paid attention. Terrible. Could you imagine? I'm the only person that paid attention to the fact that our military reserves, National Guard, are supposed to be given an adjustment to make their income go down to get credit for being in the Army Reserve. Could you imagine?
It's sad because those commanders, it's more often than not, they get information to pass down to the troops. And we're seeing it happening today in 2021. They have a stimulus program for the military because military are PCSing still, changing the permanent change of station. There are funds that are allotted to a lot of them because they don't know that with the increase in the inflation and the increase in cost in housing, there's different funds that's allotted that the government has allotted to those soldiers. But a lot of the soldiers don't know where to find that information, and they're not even given the information.
Why? What's going on with the first sergeant?
I don't know. I don't know if the information is being passed down. People only take care of themselves in today's military. It's not like the military that we once knew. And it's
what's chain of command? There's no chain of command anymore.
They just look out for themselves.
You know, that is really sad. It's really sad.
They just look out for themselves. But here at Op4 TV, we are a voice for veterans. We are a voice for veterans to speak out, to say what you want, say what you feel, so that we ensure that our veterans are heard. Hopefully, this message can reach some ears and a difference can be made. I would love for that to happen.
But you know something? Military, the reason that I specialize as a military tax specialist, because our returns are different from civilian returns, okay? Okay, and then let me tell you what has happened. It used to be before they did before President Bush did this too, now, oh, so sad. It used to be if you were say you were 100% disabled veteran before 2008, you did not file any returns. You did not have to file a return. Say you were a 50% veteran. That meant that 50% of your income is non-taxable income, correct?
Okay.
Okay, now, here we go back again in 2009. All of my disabled veterans are coming up in here giving me these 1099s. I'm like, why are you giving me a 1099? Well, Ms. Sergeant, why this is what they get. You're 100% disabled. You're not supposed to have a 1099. Oh, but they gave us this. Okay, here I go. I'm calling up Department of Defense, first of all, because those are the little racketeers. I'm like, why are you guys giving out these 1099s to my disabled veterans. Well, this is what we do. Those are the ones that said. So I said, well, boy, let me call the Department of Veteran Affairs. That's where I got the info. Well, Sergeant Wise, we changed our system now. We're two different entities. The soldier will now get his 100% disabled veterans money, but Department of Defense will turn around and give him another 1099 for his regular pay. So what they did was they slapped the deficit on disabled veterans and military clients, because a disabled veteran who is 100% disabled, you are still paying tax on your regular pay, which is not right.
It's not that. See,
and nobody else paid attention to it, but I paid attention to detail, because I'm like this. You're not supposed to get a 1099-R if you are 100% disabled, but the rule changed in 2008.
Sad.
Everything changed in 2008.
Sad. And disabled veterans, I think, are even to this day getting a bad end of it, because it used to be
Of course they get,
that
because
if
you're having to pay tax on something and you're disabled, so therefore you can't go to work. But they figure, well, I'm going to give you your 100% disabled salary, but then I'm going to turn around and give you another 1099 for the money that you earned originally.
Yeah. And what about those? And today, soldiers are kind of like yourself. They're entrepreneurs, as well as not just what you see more often than not in the Army Reserves in 2021. You'll see someone that works in the Army Reserves, and they use their Army Reserve position for their health benefits for themselves, the health benefits for their family. And then when they got to pay their bills, they go to pay their bills with their entrepreneurial, with their LLC, whatever they do, full time as an entrepreneur. I see that happening a lot. Those people are the ones who are really suffering, because as an entrepreneur, the money to tax it is different. It's difficult to keep track. And now they got this. Now they got to reach out to you and give you a whole bunch of receipts. And I mean, you're a professional. You've been doing this for a while, so you're very. For you, it's no big deal. But for them, it's a headache.
But you know something, and you know what's something I've learned? I had another one. I have a Gold. I have quite a few Gold Star families. You know the Gold Star families, all right?
I don't.
Gold Star family is a person whose husband was killed on the line of duty.
Okay.
You remember the Gold Star? Mr. Kwan, his son was killed in Afghanistan.
I remember hearing a little bit about it. It's been
when the military has a Gold Star family, it's just people that are considered, because your spouse, your relative, whoever was killed on active duty, you're considered as a Gold Star member, which is it's different from a regular soldier that was killed in battle. He was killed in battle because he was killed while he was in the line of duty. I had this one mother. She had 3 sons, and she was a Gold Star member. She emailed me. She must have found me from another. I don't know how she found me. She had 3 sons. This is something I learned from her. Do you realize that the Army is so difficult for these military wives, because you know what they're doing? Her children all get allotments from their father. It doesn't go to the wife. It goes to the children. And do you know those children have to file a tax return for that money?
Wow.
And these are 10, 11-year-olds.
But they shouldn't even be taxed if they're under 18.
But that's the way and then they're telling me that these women do not get a full pension for the life of their husbands, which is not right. It's so hard. It's been on CNN the way the women are trying to fight this, because of the way the military has set up these allotments for these women. It's heartbreaking.
It's sad and unfortunate, but it's the game we play, right? This is what we signed up for. Ms. Wise, before we got to get ready to get out of here. So give me just one reason why we should not use H&R Block. We should not use Jackson Hewitt. We should not use any of these rinky-dink tax preparers that we find out here, and why we should come to you.
First of all, you want to make sure that the taxpayer is educated. Okay. You need to be able to reach your tax preparer 24 hours a day. You need to be able to have an accessible telephone number. Like my number is accessible 24 hours a day. I always check my email, and I will always call you back. Your tax preparer, to me, is like an instructor. They're going to talk to you, and I'm going to tell you what you're doing wrong. I've had clients for over 30 years. Same clients, I have family members, I have companies, I have businesses, and I've had the family. And my business is word of mouth from another family member, another military person that leaves this country to go overseas. They have another military person. So I have clients all over the United States. So they'll tell another friend and they'll tell a relative. But the one thing that we have to do as registered e-filers is called due diligence.
Absolutely.
It's my responsibility to explain to my clients what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and the reason you're not doing what you're supposed to do. A lot of people get offended, but if I don't do my due diligence, my clients can call the Internal Revenue Service and give them my name. Well, you know, Miss Why I didn't do something. I'm going to get the penalty, not the client. This is the difference between me and these other people that are not credentialed by the Internal Revenue Service, because we have to be accountable to a bigger force, okay?
Absolutely.
If I do something that is not professional, say for example, if I do a fraudulent tax return, right?
Okay.
You have the 8887, which is a form that I'm supposed to fill out. At the bottom of that form, it states, through the penalty of perjury, is this information correct before I submit it? I'm going to get the penalty, not the client, because I'm the one that's signing the return.
And you're qualified to actually prepare and submit taxes, as opposed to somebody that in these commercial businesses, H&R Block, Jackson Hewitt, these guys are not qualified.
They don't have EFIN. You have to have it. Okay. An EFIN number is a number. Let me tell you about the EFIN number.
Please.
You have to have a P10 number, which is giving you like an EIN, but they give us a P10. For you to get an EFIN number, you have to go through the FBI and you got to get the fingerprints done, and they have to do a background check on you to make sure you're not a money launderer, you're not a criminal. So that when I got my EFIN in 2005, I think because we didn't have computers for taxes, it took about 6 months for me to get back my letter that says you now are an EFIN, which means that I'm an originator and I'm a transmitter. So it's my PIN number that I use to sign off. I don't need my clients to do anything but sign off on the 8879 because I'm considered as an ERO. But you have to have credentials to be an ERO, okay?
Absolutely. Excellent.
You have to be educated. You have to take a test. You have to take 54 hours the first semester to be able to take your test. And every year you have to do 17 credit hours to make sure you're up to date with all the new rules.
Awesome. 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 Listen, again, this is Op4 TV. Ms. Wise, I want to thank you. Please tell me you can have an opportunity to come back again before tax season kicks off.
Yeah, all you got to do, just email me.
I'll email you, hit you with the Zoom link, and we're going to get you
listen, we can do any day you want of the week. Just email me and says, Karen, can you do it? And I'll say, okay.
Again, I thank you and I appreciate you. This is Op4 TV signing off. You have anybody you want to shout out? I want to shout out your neighbor for helping us get the Zoom together. I want to thank her and appreciate her.
My next door neighbor is we're each other's right hand. We can depend on each other for everything.
That's the way it's supposed to be. Community.
Yes.
Community.
Okay.
Op4 TV.
So have a happy holiday, and I'll talk to you maybe next week.
Next week, let's do it.
All right.
Together.
Thank you. Stay safe.